When we picture the founding of Jamestown in 1608, the traditional story usually features rugged, bearded English adventurers squaring off against the mighty Chief Powhatan. But those two opposing camps faced a severe operational problem. Neither side could speak a word of the other's language. This total lack of communication bred intense paranoia, resulting in a fragile standoff where the slightest misunderstanding could trigger a bloodbath. To break the tension, Captain Newport and Chief Powhatan brokered a diplomatic solution, a human hostage exchange to gather intelligence and secure a temporary peace. Powhatan played his hand strategically, handing over a shrewd indigenous warrior named Namantake to live among the English. Namantake was actually operating on a covert espionage mission. Powhatan had given him a tally stick, instructing the warrior to carve a notch for every Englishman he encountered in London, allowing the chief to accurately gauge their military numbers across the sea. The English counteroffer was shockingly lopsided. In exchange for Powhatan's seasoned warrior, the English handed over a terrified 13-year-old cabin boy named Thomas Savage. This exchange placed the survival of the English presence in the hands of expendable children, traded back and forth as human bargaining chips. Thrust into Powhatan's complex world, Thomas Savage was small, entirely inconspicuous, and completely out of his depth. Yet his perceived weakness proved to be a significant advantage. Because he was a child, the native warriors did not view him as a military threat or a target for assassination. Left to observe his surroundings freely, the boy listened and adapted. Within a few months, he became the very first Englishman to truly learn and speak the complex Algonquian language. As the harsh winter set in and the Virginia Company began to starve, the English captains found themselves entirely reliant on this young boy. His linguistic skills made him the only person capable of negotiating the native food supplies that kept the colony alive. Savage wasn't carving notches in a stick or polishing armor. The settlers wrote that she would take off her leather mantle and turn naked handsprings through the fort, racing alongside the English ship's boys. But there were darker motivations for her welcome. Many adult English settlers were eager to host her because they viewed her as a human shield, believing her presence in the fort would deter Chief Powhatan from launching an attack. This timeline tracks her life, splitting into contradictory paths. Accounts conflict over her stature and an early marriage to Cocoon. Jamestown's primary source documents are a messy, overlapping knot of rumors, looking nothing like tidy modern legends. Both Savage and Pocahontas were caught in a persistent cultural friction, forced into roles where survival meant navigating a world their elders refused to understand. The final phase of Pocahontas's life was defined by forced assimilation. She was converted to Christianity, baptized, and officially renamed Rebecca. Dressed in restrictive English finery, she was paraded through London as a propaganda tool for the Virginia Company. Her tragically early death solidified her fate, freezing her as an icon of assimilation rather than a real person fighting to survive. Thomas Savage, however, experienced a very different outcome in the brutal colonial era. The supposedly powerless cabin boy leveraged his ground-level knowledge of indigenous culture to secure land, eventually settling Virginia's eastern shore. In a final twist of fate, this expendable hostage lived to become the patriarch of the Savage family, the oldest traceable family of English descent in modern America. While captains struggled to hold a crumbling fort, the inconspicuous cabin boy had already woven himself into the land. His family tree began where the diplomacy of swords had failed.